Welcome to a new Daily Top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
What is the most NSFW thing you've actually done at work? Worked at a porn store for a while, got a blowjob in the back once, and often had strippers try to bribe me for discounts with showing me their naked bodies, which never worked because it was a porn store and there were images of naked women everywhere. Your boobs don't work on me. You have no power here. Quote. Worked as a mover as one of my first jobs. On one move, I accidentally stumbled upon a NSFW photo album of the customer's wife. She had caught me with it, but I pretended I didn't look at it, but she already knew I did. She then proceeded to show me the rest of the photo album. That was really it, LMFAO. Sometimes people get off on others seeing that stuff. If you have an NSFW photo album of yourself, you're probably a little bit of an exhibitionist. When I was a kid in the 90s, I stumbled across a NSFW photo album of my mom, and I almost threw up right after the post-nut clarity kicked in. Walked across the top of the cars on a moving train. It was only going like 5 to 10 miles per hour, but it was definitely not safe, not legal, and would have gotten me fired if I was caught. Used to do that as a kid. There was a 1/2 mile stretch between two rickety old bridges where trains would go real slow. We'd hop down onto car from first bridge and then climb up on second as we went under. Super sketchy. Did it maybe 4 to 5 times. Dumb. One of my fellow club members talks about all the stupid shit he did around trains as a kid. The big one is how they used to jump the tracks near a station. The real danger with that is the third rail, which gives power to electric trains. Many subways use this system. You touch that third rail, you're dead in an instant. One day, he didn't end up going to hang out with friends. That was the day one of them tripped and landed on that third rail. Gas concrete saw with no hose hooked up, no respirator, and no protective eyewear. Folks, protect your body even if you're 22 and think you're hot shit. Silica is the new asbestos. Earlier this month, a ban on engineered stone benchtops came into effect in Australia. Guys would cut these things up with angle grinders and the particles would get into their lungs and cause permanent scarring. Silicosis is incurable and only gets worse over time. 100% about silica. It's grim stuff for your lungs. Girlfriend gave me a blowjob in the freezer when we first got together. It was just us working that night and the closing managers already left. She pulled me into the freezer and just dropped my drawers. Being the law-abiding citizen I am, I just enjoyed the moment. Edit, for those wondering. Yes, I am still with the same woman. It was 5 years ago. She was the best friend helping me get through a toxic ex. Also, she wants me to tell everyone, whipped cream was involved. Fast food fucking. A tale as old as the industry. Sex on the floor with the girl from the shoe store next door, after locking the front door. I didn't really mean that all to rhyme. Eminem got real quiet after this dropped. If we're talking actual, not safe for work, I willingly used an elevator that was years past its inspection certification pretty much daily for over a year. Never really thought much about it, and then a woman died across town in a similar elevator that hadn't been certified in a while. Well, I ended up taking the stairs exclusively after that happened and always check the certification date on any elevators I have to use. I check the certifications on every elevator I use. They are always expired. That's why it's become an interesting game to check them. I manage an apartment building and our certification has been expired for at least half of my tenure. It's not because we're too lazy or cheap to have it inspected. We have a contract with an elevator repair company who inspects and maintains the elevators on a regular basis. There's just one inspector working for the city and too many elevators. When I was a teenager, I worked at a small call center that primarily focused on debt collection. We were a small office in a large but mostly empty office building. The floor above us was completely empty, so I used to go up there and smoke cigarettes in a little overgrown courtyard area. One day my boss's daughter caught me and asked for a cigarette. A week later we were regularly fucking in an old abandoned corner office. This went on for like 2 months until we all got laid off, then I never heard from her again. Right before I got laid off, a bunch of us got RC cars and raced them around another empty office space because we didn't have any work to do, so for like 2 weeks I was just playing with RC cars and blowing loads. Funnest job ever. For like 2 weeks I was just playing with RC cars and blowing loads. The duality of man. Ah yes, the trifecta of teenagers, dodging responsibility, RC cars, and sex. Had sex with a coworker in a restaurant after closing. Next day there was hand and back marks on the mirror walls. I did that with my now partner 13 years ago in a Michelin star restaurant. Left a cum stain on the wooden floor. The restaurant went under and changed hands. Turned into a molecular gastronomy place, owned by one of our other old boss. We went there 4 years ago to try the food. The cum stain was still there. Nice. Typical. The closers make a mess and leave it for the opening shift to clean up. Force push to prod without going through test or staging. I don't work at CrowdStrike though. I promise none of that was my fault. At least you didn't force choke. Sit for extended periods of time while staring into a screen. Wait, shit. In that order. Shot up dope in the bathroom. 11 years sober now. Damn. Congratulations on your sobriety. Throwaway BC year. TLDR. I had sex with a coworker at the workplace. I worked at a store as a straight out of high school job. I was getting ready to quit. I met this girl who at the time worked there but just got accepted at a way better job somewhere else as well. We jokingly flirted with each other a lot. Teenager hormone type things. This store was open late, which only had around 4 people there at 10 and it closed at midnight. I was scheduled off at 10 that night, she was there till 12. I made a joke about walking her back to her car to protect her from any kidnappers or something silly. She fired back that I would be the only one allowed to kidnap her, so I knew there was something brewing between us. Instead of heading home, I knew she hadn't taken her break yet, so I sat in our break room, which, coincidentally, had no cameras except the ones up and down the staircase. An added bonus was also locked office-type rooms for printers and extra materials. She took her break at 11, during which the only other person on the clock is mandated to stay at the front of the store for customers to check out ECT. She thought it was cute that I stayed to talk to her, and being committed to my word about protecting her in the parking lot, walking her to her car. After a few hugs and whispers into each other's ears, we somehow ended up in one of the locked offices, taking our clothes off and kissing each other. It was very exciting and heart-pumping to say the least. The aftermath made us turn into detectives, scrubbing the floor, desks or any areas and cleaning it to the utmost degree of cleanliness to ensure our tracks were covered. We've been together for 3 years now. That's cute, and stories like these make me realize I need to move out of my parents' house ASAP cause I have no social life. I live alone with no social life. Work on that first, don't wait to solve the problem. I jerked off while driving an armored personnel carrier full of people down the highway in Iraq in 2007. Hell yeah, combat jack. The tactical jerk. Wank tank. This armored personnel carrier will protect its passengers from all types of explosions. All. The engineers, probably. Thank you for your service, I guess. Thank you for your self-service. Not original, I know, but the older woman who took a shine to me work saw to it that we had sex in pretty much every room in the building, as well as the garden. She was one fit and horny 45-year-old. I miss those days. Hermit was also a fit, horny older woman of 45 for me, when I was 30. Sadly, she waited until after she quit before making a move, so we only ever fucked in her double wide. To make it extra classy, she reeked of cigarettes, wanted me to fist her, and her best male friend who passed out in the guest room left an angry note about how she ruined their friendship by nailing some hot young stud. I didn't go back. This older woman wanted me to come over, so I did. Her husband was there and they were seeing if I was down for a threesome. I went along with it, but little did I know they took pills before I got there. I noticed they started acting weird, but we started doing things, so it slipped my mind. I start doing things with her after they told me to. Shortly after, the dude starts getting mad that I was getting with his wife. So I immediately stop and leave the room. The wife comes out and starts apologizing to me. I say it's fine, I'm just gonna leave, and then she starts crying that she hurt my feelings. He comes out, thinks I made her cry, so he starts threatening me and told me to leave. I grab my shit, go out to the living room to get my shoes on, and that dude is still completely naked, stretched out on the couch, just staring at me the entire time I got my shoes on and left. A few days later she asks me to come back over, lol. I was hooking up some old Christmas lights and they exploded in my face. People from the other side of the office came over like, WTF was that? It was so loud and bright that I felt like I'd been flashbanged. Ears were ringing for hours and my vision was like if you looked directly at the sun for a couple of seconds. Luckily I didn't actually get shocked, that might have been bad, mains electricity. I first read that as you were hooking up with some old Christmas lights, and got very confused. Walking up the stairs without 3 points of contact. Short dick. Every dick is a short dick, when you put it in a light socket. I used to be in the Navy, and when we were in our home port, my girlfriend at the time came for dinner when I was on overnight duty, and well, I fucked her on the missile control panel. It was fun. There was only one missile in control that night. USS Jiggity. I mean, ships were full of places to fuck. Deployments showed me that. Probably once a week on both deployments we would hear about people getting caught on the Stennis. So many places to get away with it, makes you wonder how many others were doing it. So many unattended spaces. Brought my kids with me. I was swamped, had no childcare, and my husband and I worked 2 12-hour shifts BC of a major car crash. I brought them in, asked the CEO if I could please leave them in a room for one day with an intern BC. I had no other choice. My CEO was lovely and understanding and said of course. I cried about 20 times that day. 2 17-year-olds lost their lives, a mother of 4 was left paralyzed from the waist down, and an old man had both legs amputated. And my husband was one of the only surgeons that day, and I was literally one of 2 anesthetists. I kept having to run between ORs, fiddling with doses and running back. In between surgeries for about 2 minutes I'd run up to the office and say hi to my kids and switch out one of the interns. Everyone was understanding. Edit my kids didn't cause this, a massive car crash happened and I had to work overtime as 1 out of 2 anesthetists, and my husband as 1 out of 15 surgeons. Jesus Christ, I applaud you. And her understanding boss.